Hey guys, what's up? We're back, and so is the NBA season. Very exciting start to the season. Not so great for my Miami Heat, but we didn't give our preseason predictions. I have Heat Thunder in the finals, and of course, the Heat are going to win an NBA championship. But my NBA MVP award prediction is SGA. Now, there's been a little chatter about if this is Jayson Tatum's year, and I'm going to tell you why I don't believe it is. Now, it's not because I don't think that Jayson Tatum is an MVP level player, because he absolutely is. He's an NBA champion, he's an Olympic gold medalist, he is one of the top players in the NBA, and he has been for many years. However, let's be honest about the NBA MVP. It's extremely political. It's very much narrative driven. And that doesn't mean that the guys who win the MVP don't deserve it. So that's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the campaign begins early and it's throughout. And there's things thrown into the NBA MVP qualifications that make sense one year and then they don't make sense the next year. And the odds don't even have him in the top 6 for the NBA MVP right now. And I don't think, again, it's not because he's not going to play at an MVP level. It's because the NBA MVP is going to go to SGA. Now, we know that Nikola Jokic has been the best player in the league for years now. They're not going to give him another MVP. They're not. The voters get tired of voting for the same player every year. We saw this with LeBron. That's just how it works. They're not going to be compelled to give him another MVP, which will be his 4th. They're not going to give it to Jayson Tatum because he gets cannibalized by playing with Jaylen Brown. What do I mean by that? Jaylen Brown won the NBA Finals MVP, and rightfully so. Not because Jayson Tatum wasn't a great player, but Jaylen Brown was obviously the NBA Finals MVP. Then you have the situation with him on the Olympics team, not getting playing time. Now, some would argue, well, I think that's why they're going to give him the MVP this year. But that's not the case. When he has a duo throughout the entirety of the season, and they're as good as they are together, and then you have Jaylen Brown perform the way that he did in the finals, the voters pay attention to that. Because whether it's fair or right, because it is a regular season award, the voters do get irritated when the player that they chose for the regular season MVP doesn't go all the way to the championship, which they rarely do, and doesn't perform at the level that they expect in the postseason. So I think that he is absolutely a candidate. I think he's going to have an incredible season. I think the Boston Celtics are going to be the toughest out in the East, even though I am still picking the Heat. They have an incredible roster. They pretty much brought everyone back from the championship run. He's going to be incredible this year, but they're not going to give it to him because it's political. They're always going to point to Jaylen Brown as being the guy that is right beside him. The performance that he has in the NBA final as the NBA Finals MVP. They're not going to look at Jayson Tatum as the full engine that makes that great team go. Now, he's the best player, but it just, to me, doesn't matter when it comes to the MVP voting. I don't know if that's fair. Again, as I always say, fairs are for Ferris wheels and fried Oreos, but don't be shocked if they don't give it to him, even if he has an MVP level season this year. I don't think it's going to go to Giannis. I don't think it's going to go to Joker. Luka is the other interesting one. I would keep my eye on Luka. Luka's going to have a pretty spectacular season to me for him to win it over SGA, because they do want to give it to Luka, but somehow Luka hasn't really gone out there and stolen it. I think it's between Luka and SGA. I don't think that Tatum is going to be high enough in that conversation to win the MVP. And even though Jokic is the best player, they're going to get exhaustion from voting for him, whether that makes sense or not. We know that LeBron could have won MVP for many, many, many years and didn't. And it's because they didn't want to vote for him every year. The MVP is about storylines, and that's my opinion on how that's going to go this year. So the other night, I was at opening night for the Lakers. It was a really great game for the Lakers. I was actually very impressed with their outing, how they performed, how they looked defensively, how Dalton Connect looked, and of course, Anthony Davis. If they can play like that, they will win many games this season and will be a playoff team, not a play-in team. But the moment everyone was looking for was Bronny to get on the court with LeBron. Now, I can set the stage for this. It was very intense in there because when we got to that point in the game, the Lakers had a significant lead. Dalton had been in. So like, okay, we got the first round pick in first. We've got to do that. That makes sense. All tracks. Think of all the storylines and try to eliminate them before they come up. It's the Lakers. It's LeBron. JJ's first game as a coach. They were very smart to do that. But he had been in for a while. So it's like, all right, it's kind of getting time. They have a significant lead. This is sort of the moment. And then they go up to the scorers table, and no matter what anyone tells you, like, there was a palpable energy of excitement in there. There was an interest. Everyone kind of leaned forward to get an extra close look. Everyone had their phones out. So whatever anyone says about whether they were into it or not, the crowd was into it, I assure you. I'm going to make sure I didn't turn my microphone off. The crowd was into it, I assure you. He gets in. Obviously, he did not play very long. Got his shot up. Everyone held their breath when he got his shot up. Wanted it to go in, obviously, but it's fine. But here's what I love about how it all played out. Now, it's out of the way. You got it out of the way. Game one, you put him in at the right spot after putting the first round pick in, after getting a significant lead. He gets his time on the court with LeBron. You have the moment. It's on TNT. It's opening night. It's in Los Angeles. The stage is set. Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. are there. All the celebs are there. It's this big moment. Perfect. Now we can go back to watching Lakers basketball, and Bronny can go and become a developing player, which is exactly what he is. I love how they played this. It was so smart. So smart. I don't want to hear about the second round pick and what he's supposed to be. You don't know the second round pick for your team for the past 5 years. You can't name them to me right now without Googling them. Stop it. Stop it. I have worked in this business for almost 17 years. I might have worked in this business longer than some of you have been alive. We don't talk about second round picks. We don't do it. Okay. It is not a thing that we are spending time stressing out about. First round picks, yes. Second round picks, no. They are a developing player. Sometimes they turn out to be spectacular, but we don't know that. And you're not evaluating them. So this whole talk about like, wow, well, what was a waste? You don't know that. Nobody does. You didn't know about the second round pick from your team last year or the year before that or the 5 years before that. You didn't know that. And that's okay. We're not supposed to. That's what the scouts and the coaches and the team personnel is supposed to do. They're supposed to go and draft players and develop them. And as I said before, in the NBA, these are extremely young players. They are not even fully into their prime of their athletic bodies yet, their speed. They are still learning the game. And that's not just for Bronny James. It's for all young players. So I love that they got this out of the way. You don't have to go up to the press conference every day and explain why he hasn't played yet or when he's going to get in. And I'm sure he will get more time on the court with Bron when the time is appropriate. But it wouldn't bother me at all if we didn't see Bronny on the court playing significant time until after All-Star. It's clear now. You got him in. We had the moment. It was special. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I got to watch it in person. And now we can commence forward with him developing as an NBA player, because outside of him playing on the court with his father, the goal for him is to be a contributing NBA player. That is the goal. And now is the time that he can lean in to that, because all the pressure of the big moments is gone and they got it out of the way early. It's not going to be a conversation that's going to continue lingering that reporters are going to have to ask about. I love it. I love how they played it. It was perfect. Chef's kiss. I love when a plan comes together. It was awesome. Absolutely perfect. Nailed it. Who didn't nail it, though, is the Jets. So I talked a lot about how my expectations for the Jets this year have all come to pass. Now, they do have the Patriots this weekend, and I expect that they'll win that game. And then everyone will be abuzz with how they're turning things around. And keep in mind, one of their only 2 wins is already against the Patriots. So I'm not going to get too crazy there. But what I really want to talk about is Davante Adams. So he shared a speech with the team following the loss of the Steelers. He said there was a lack of energy and urgency out there. It was apparent. I played on teams that have a winning culture. And just basically, I took a moment to let them know I had reservations about speaking up too early and being too vocal too early. But I felt in my mind, I said, F that, because we don't have time. I have to do whatever I have to do to help the team move forward. Now, I can't imagine what Davante Adams is thinking or going through as he's watching this meltdown against Pittsburgh, coming from the Raiders and all of the conversation and chaos there to now a Jets team that is going to have to go on a run just to get a wild card spot. And generally, he's right. Like, if you're a new player, even if you're a veteran player, you're new to a team, this is your first game, you giving a speech has got to be wild. Like, that cannot be a common theme. But it lends to what I've been saying about the Jets, which is that there is no leadership and there's no culture. For Davante Adams to get there and then immediately feel compelled to give this speech right after this game, and he literally just got there, that's what it is. The Jets are not well run. And he's now in another bad situation. The run that they're going to have to go on, they will write sonnets about. That's what's required of the Jets, based off the expectations that they had before the season started, which of course was Super Bowl, AFC Championship game. Making the playoffs is not enough for this team, which, by the way, hasn't been to the playoffs since 2010. It's really frustrating, I'm sure, for Davante Adams. I don't know what he was sold on before he got there, but obviously you could see from the outside that this wasn't a particularly well-run situation. But sometimes you think you get in the building and you can turn things around. He's still a great player. I think as the games go on and he gets more integrated into the offense and gets more comfortable, they'll have some more success, meaning him and Aaron. But as far as the Jets as a whole, they're not going anywhere. And it's a lot. It's a lot to ask of any player to create a culture, to create an identity. We do this with players all the time. I was just talking the other day about how Russell Wilson was asked to come into Denver and be the face of the organization and turn everything around and create the culture with a first-time head coach. And it was a disaster. Now, he wasn't playing well, but it also, that's a lot to ask of any player. Building those things takes a lot of time. And just dropping players into these situations and expecting them to just galvanize an entire organization, you have to really have a special kind of something to pull that off. So it's not that I'm giving Aaron grace in this spot. I'm giving Davante grace in this spot. Aaron asked for all this. He wanted all his people. He wanted all his coaches. He wanted everything done his way. He wanted to go to Egypt. Like, he created the culture that exists, whatever it is, in this current state right now with the Jets. So he's now trying to, and I wonder if this is a reaction to Davante speaking. He's now trying to take accountability. He took accountability for the interception that he threw in the Steelers game, after throwing Mike Williams fully under the bus for the interception at the end of the prior game. He's now taking accountability. The thing about leadership, and I don't know if this is y'all's experience, but really good leaders to me are accountable all the time. Because at the end of the day, you're in charge. So if your group or your employees or your team is not playing well, even if you are a great, it's still a reflection of you. You should be building them up. You should be helping them along. You should be taking accountability for the things that aren't going well, because we all can see when it's not your fault. But when it's kind of your fault or could be your fault and we're unsure and you push someone under the bus, okay, well, now we know it's your fault, Aaron, because you got the coach fired and the offense switched around with the coordinator and you got Davante Adams and literally everything is how you want it and you're still losing. So of course you're going to take accountability now. We have eyeballs, we have ears, we have memories, we know how all this came together. Of course you can take accountability now. This is the accountability that I wish he took from the beginning. And that's just not his style. It's not his thing. But for Davante to come up and give a speech right away, it says a lot about where the Jets are right now. So to announce that he will be back, he's going to play, and he will be starting this weekend for the Miami Dolphins. Tyreek is excited, Waddle is excited, but he also announced during his press conference that he will not be wearing the Guardian cap. He will not be wearing the Guardian cap. Now, the Guardian cap is new, and obviously not all players are wearing it, but it was asked to him for a very specific and obvious reason. And his response to the question was pretty tone deaf to me. The press conference overall really felt very unsettling. He used a lot of terminology that I just would have stayed away from if I was the Dolphins PR team. Saying he's willing to die for the game, and uh, he's willing to risk it all. And when he was asked if he was going to wear the Guardian cap, his response was no. And when they said why, he said personal reasons. Now, when anyone says personal reasons, it's really just a way of saying, this is what I want to do and don't ask any more questions. Because if someone says something, they're doing something for personal reasons, like taking a personal day, or they're not doing, whatever it is they're doing for personal reasons, the idea is that if you ask further questions, you're being incredibly invasive. So from his perspective, to get people to stop asking about it, it's actually very smart. But from a optics perspective, it sounds very unaware. It lacks a self-awareness, not only for the severity of the situation, but for the empathy that people are truly feeling for Tua and his injuries. It's giving, I do my own research. It's giving, I don't understand why people are so adamant about my personal safety. And this is why the whole Tua conversation is so nuanced and convoluted. I really feel strongly that if this was my brothers or my nephews, I wouldn't want them to continue playing. That would be what I would tell them, because your long-term health, specifically with these type of injuries, it's not something that you can work through. You can get a replacement hip. You can get, screws in your wrist. You cannot replace your brain. And while we still have so much research that needs to be done about these injuries and the long-term effects of it, we do know that concussions are very bad for you and for your long-term health. And the league has gone through so much with CTE and concussions and player health and scrutiny, and it's really affected the game. So much so that they are and have had to invest so much in this research, in specific type of care, and they have the doctors at the stadiums to make sure that they protect the players, and they have the independent person there to decide if you have a concussion or not, that's independent of the team, and they have the Guardian caps. It's a very big deal, and people saying that they are afraid to watch Tua play is a real thing. And from an optics perspective, it matters because this is an entertainment product. And when someone is putting their life on the line, which they all technically are, but you have a heightened level of those type of injuries, it puts everybody in this very weird position. And I just wish that they had come out at that press conference with a lot more awareness of how sensitive the situation is. It came across, I don't want to say like tough guy, but it didn't make, I don't think it made anyone feel better about him coming back to play. I think if he had made it clear he was going to do everything he could do to make sure that he stays healthy. He's going to wear the Guardian cap. He's going to play differently. He's very aware of how serious it is and how much he matters to this team and to his teammates and to his family, and just put forth an aura of understanding. People don't want Tua to not play football because they don't like Tua or they don't want the Dolphins to win. They really feel afraid for him. which in this world where nobody gives a fuck about anybody, nobody gives a fuck what happens to anybody, no one treats anybody kindly, that's a really rare thing that people are empathetic about this at all. So for him to say he's not wearing it, it's a personal choice. I don't like it at all. I don't think that anyone is looking at the situation other than the Dolphins having their quarterback back and Tyreek Hill potentially getting more numbers in fantasy. That doesn't feel good. And I always knew he was going to come back. Like if he was cleared, he was going to play. There's so much money on the line for him. It's what he does for a living. And, when you are an athlete, that's what you want to do. And I get all that. I 100% get all that. I just don't like how it was presented. And it really didn't sit well with me. A personal choice. Like you should be doing everything that you can do to protect yourself. Everything. Like this is a thing that is an option for you to add extra protection. He was out there talking about, you can get in a car accident. Yeah, you can get in a car accident. But you can wear a seatbelt. And the car has airbags. And you can still get hurt in all those ways. But you should still drive in a car that has airbags and you should still wear your seatbelts. Right? Oh, you could twist your ankle getting out of bed. You could hurt yourself getting out of bed. Yeah, you can hurt yourself getting out of bed. And we're all still going to get out of bed in the morning. But you play a collision sport where you will 100% get hit again. 100% chance of that. It is a collision sport. Men get paid millions of dollars on the other side of the ball to hit you. That's their job with all their might. So that's not the same thing. So I really didn't love it. I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously very conflicted because Dolphins are one of my teams and I want them to be competitive. And he's shown his value by not being around and how completely awful the Dolphins are without him. But the press conference did not land for me the way that I think fans wanted it to, because there was a lot of anxiety about him coming back, and that's a very fair question. And to just shrug it off, it's a personal choice. I don't even know how the NFL let it be a personal choice, because the optics of this for the league outside of just the Dolphins is not good. So that's my thoughts on that. Let's get to some comments. Thank you guys so much, by the way, for subscribing and liking and commenting and sharing. Really appreciate it. I want to integrate you into our talks and show you some love. So we'll take some comments from YouTube. Make sure you drop yours in. We'll have some of these next week as well. This is from Coach T6394. I'm very rarely wrong is a wild way to start. Well, listen, maybe some people are new here, so they don't know how often I'm right about things. It's important that you set the tone and that they understand that occasionally I'm off, but most of the time I'm nailing these things. So coach, I gotta set the tone properly. At Steve Santiago, the Jets are basically the Cowboys of the AFC this year, a bad team that is overexposed and underwhelming. I don't know. I think that the Cowboys are better and have been better than the Jets. I have to think about that comp a little bit. That's a thinker. I feel like there might be a better comp for the Jets in the NFC than the Cowboys, because the Cowboys have won 12 games the last 3 seasons. Dak was an MVP finalist and an All-Pro. They had 9 All-Pros, including Dak last year. So it's kind of tough for me to put them in the same sentence as the Jets. And that's saying something, because the Cowboys are super disappointing this year, but they're still in a better position. I mean, they could beat San Francisco this weekend, because San Francisco is completely banged up. So I don't know if I put them exactly in the same space, but it's an interesting comp. The Puerto Rican, what's with the big ass Flintstones Brontosaurus drinking cup? Whatever you're talking about. It's totally a normal size. Iceman X5085. This shit is scary how much I agree with Joy. Nobody is in a better place than Bronny. If you think he's in a bad place, well, he was in a bad place at birth. You're getting to develop and learn this game you love beside your father. Also, one of the best to ever do it. You know, thank you for agreeing with me. I had a conversation yesterday with someone who is very wealthy, very powerful, and he was talking about his kids who play sports and how he had a conversation with his son about, he's privileged. He has the best of everything. He has the best training. He has the best schools. He has the best nutrition. He, has money. He's there's nothing he's ever wanted for. And when he plays sports, he will be running up against kids who have a completely different life and a completely different level of motivation and don't look at sports as something that they're just passionate about. They look at it as a way to change their lives and their families' lives. And that's a different space to be in. And how much you have to find a way when you don't have that to stay motivated, because he doesn't have to play basketball. He doesn't have to do anything. His father is LeBron James. He doesn't have to do anything. And when your father's not LeBron James, that may be your dream to not do anything. But it's I'm not saying that it's a one motivation is better than the other. I'm just saying that there is something that you have to tap into when you don't have to do something to get to a certain level and be respected at that level, because there's no financial reason, there's no access reason, there's no exposure reason for you to be in the NBA. He's really only there because he wants to play basketball. And that's a different space to be coming from. Not comparing for better or worse. I'm just saying that when we look at Bronny, and Bron's talked about this, like, he doesn't have to play basketball. He can do whatever he wants. So he has to tap into that fire of making himself motivated and working hard and being able to match the intensity of those other professionals in a way that is very different, because LeBron James is his father. But yeah, also he's learning from LeBron James. Like, who else would you want teaching you basketball? Finally, 111YZT, no three-peat for the Chiefs, and I look forward to your future show, apologizing once again that you were wrong. Being wrong twice in a year is impossible. Of course, I wouldn't be wrong until next year, technically, if I'm wrong about this. But I will say I'm wrong if the Chiefs do not three-peat. I don't think I am wrong. I think that they will three-peat. I've said it since the beginning of the season. I'm taking the Chiefs over the field. I know a lot of people do not want that and root against greatness. I'm not one of those people, and I also think that they are the best team and they're the best coached team. We haven't talked a lot about Andy Reid this year, but Big Red is still spectacular and still dialing it up. They just got DeAndre Hopkins. They will integrate him and continue to improve, and they are undefeated. I think they will lose a game this year, to be clear, but I don't think that it will be the Super Bowl. I said finally, but I was actually wrong. Finally is Latasha Moore. Why? Watching your channel, I learn something new all of the time. Thank you. Make sure you subscribe. Appreciate you watching. Like, share, comment, and we will catch you next week. Thanks, guys.